Hi everybody, and welcome to our webinar for December. This is our monthly coffee break webinar. Every month we pick a topic that has to do with accounts receivable, and we go over it for just 20 minutes, so it's just a little bit of your time, and we hope that you learn something from it. So this month we wanted to do robotic process automation. This is a topic that is really big in the business world. Right now, and everybody's talking about it. So we decided that we would do something on it, and we have the agenda up on the screen right now. But before we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and our company. My name is Lindsay O'Brien, and I am the marketing brand manager for AnyTimeCollect, which is an automated accounts receivable software. We've been around since 2008, so we've been automating the accounts receivable process for companies for a decade now. And we've come across a lot of different topics, educational topics, as well as a lot of different processes for accounts receivable across different companies. So we've run into a lot of different business cases. So now on to the agenda. We're going to go over what exactly robotic process automation is, how it can fit in your accounts receivable process and how it can benefit you, as well as the state of RPA and accounts receivable today. So how many companies are using it and what it kind of looks like actually in the market. So for the overview, what exactly is robotic process automation? It focuses on automating the business processes, and typically these are processes that are manual for employees currently. For example, robotic process automation can automatically send out emails. So if you're typically sending out collection emails, on the first of the month or as soon as an invoice becomes due, using this rules-based workflow with robotic process automation, those automated email or those emails can become automated and be sent out automatically for you. And the email would be sent out based on a rule set up in the system that triggers the action to occur. So, as soon as that invoice is created in your ERP system, then the robotic process automation takes over and sees that invoice and sends out that email. And where can it fit in with your accounts receivable process? So I'm sure that everybody on this webinar knows that the accounts receivable industry is known for having understaffed departments. They're overworked. It's a lot of manual work that goes along with collections. So using robotic process automation, these manual tasks get taken over and they don't have to be done repeatedly over and over again by already overworked departments. But that doesn't mean that the robotic process automation replaces the collector position. Robotic process automation allows collectors to be able to do more value-added tasks for the company. So instead of stuffing envelopes or putting stamps on or working in Excel spreadsheets, the collectors can then be building customer relationships and reaching out to past due customers via phone calls. So that these customers now want to pay you on time because you have a good, strong relationship with them, as well as creating strategies and processes that make the department more efficient. So instead of sitting around and doing, definitely important tasks, but things that could be considered more menial tasks, they're now creating strategies and processes and using their talents and their intelligence to bring more value to the accounts receivable department. So one area that we briefly touched on in a previous slide that robotic process automation can really value the accounts receivable department is by using automated email. So like we said, automation can trigger an email to be sent out to the customer with the invoice attached. So for example, as soon as a customer goes 30 days past due, the RPA can trigger an email to be sent reminding the customer that that invoice is past due and requesting the payment to be paid. So that workflow comes into play as soon as that invoice goes 30 days past due. And without needing to create these emails yourself, some accounts receivable departments have saved in upwards of 600 hours. So if you imagine that Each email takes 5 minutes to craft when you're, going into the ERP system and you're finding out what how far past due a customer is, maybe exporting Excel sheets and filtering on those Excel sheets to find all this information. All this information will be automatically dragged into that email. All of the information will automatically be filtered on inside of this robotic process automation. Another area that it comes into play and is very helpful with is invoice disputes. So one thing that we've found in our time spent in the accounts receivable industry is that a lot of the times invoice disputes can cost the most money in a department, because the longer an invoice sits disputed, the more likely you won't get paid on it. So with robotic process automation, it can trigger workflows to automatically escalate an account as soon as it goes into dispute. So if the customer disputes the invoice from such thing, if you have like a portal where the invoice can get disputed, or even if you're manually checking that invoice as being disputed, then the RPA kicks in and it will alert a credit manager or department manager and send an alert to them, letting them know that this account needs to be contacted and that this needs to be resolved. It can also put these disputes, associating them with a reason code. So then you can go back at the end of each month and with those value added tasks, decide what reason codes are occurring most often and how you can resolve them so that they're not occurring at all anymore, and almost just eliminating majority of your invoice disputes. For example, if it's a problem with the wrong or no PO codes being put on these invoices and your customer requires that, you can make sure that that's happening, and then you're eliminating almost half of your invoice disputes. Another area that's extremely important with credit score alerts that RPA can deal with and take off your plate. So keeping an eye on your customer's credit score and credit history is a proactive thing that you can do to make sure that you don't run into bad debt, where you don't run into customers going bankrupt and not paying on their account on time. So staying ahead of these and being proactive on their credit scores can eliminate the issue of not getting paid on time. And by using robotic process automation, you can get ahead of these disasters by setting up rules so that the system will alert you as soon as the customer's credit score drops below a certain threshold. And that's something that you can choose based on that rules-driven workflow. You can say if the credit score hits below a certain number, send me an email, and then you can call those accounts and get ahead of it and see what's up, call them, ask them why their credit score has taken a drop, and maybe even change their credit rules and change how much that they're allowed to take out on credit with you. So this is the state of robotic process automation and accounts receivable. So in a recent poll that was conducted among accounts receivable departments, and this is dealing with people that have already implemented robotic process automation. So only 13% have actually implemented RPA in their accounts receivable department so far. 7% have indicated that they've received approval. So in the new year, that's going to jump up that number that have implemented, because more people are starting to get into it. But only 80% are currently evaluating the opportunity or have not even considered it yet. So it's still a really new technology, and not a lot of people have thought about implementing it yet. But it is going to start being something that we see a lot more. And then in the same poll, more people were interested in it, although they have not, maybe haven't received explicit approval to start implementing yet. So 52% predict moderate to limited emphasis on robotic process automation. So some people aren't very interested in it at all. 7% have no plans, but 41% are expecting to see significant emphasis on this in the coming new year, whether that's putting it in their budget for 2020 or starting to evaluate different tools and options in the new year. So what are the benefits to having this in your accounts receivable department? There's a lot that the robotic process automation can take over and put on autopilot for you, even beyond some of the examples that we gave you in the previous slides. By using robotic process automation, you can better analyze the credit scores of customers and what will put your company at risk, and that'll allow you to make better decisions that can reduce or eliminate your bad debt. Once your workflows are automated, you'll be able to take the time to refine your collections process and ensure it's the most efficient process possible. And that can all be done by simply setting up those workflows to reflect the new processes that you're putting in place. So like we said, using robotic process automation gets rid of those manual tasks. So now you're going to have the time to go through what is your current collections process, what is your current credit process, and decide, are we doing it in the most efficient way possible, and is there a better way that we can be doing it? And then you can set up those robotic process automation workflows to reflect that. With the automation of electronic payment, you can eliminate manual data entry. So I don't know how many of you right now are, currently taking credit cards over the phone and manually putting those credit card numbers into your ERP system to make payment for your customers. But when you're automating that process with RPA, then you're ensuring PCI compliance, and you're also allowing customers to pay with credit card or ACH on a recurring payment. So customers aren't even having to go in there month after month. You're not having to go in there month after month. It's almost completely self-served and put on automation. And then finally, with the use of all these tools and all of these different workflows, you're going to ultimately be able to get paid faster. And then there's a couple different tools that are out there now already that you can evaluate for automation, as well as the robotic process automation that uses this rules-based workflow to trigger things. So there's a couple different automated accounts receivable softwares out there that can do this. One of them is AnyTimeCollect, and then another one that we're aware of is there is a high radius option. The background screen that's on this page is the AnyTimeCollect option, which you can see that on the top that tells you you or your collectors exactly what they need to do when they get into the system. And that's all things that have come up based on this rules-based workflow. So I'm going to send out a poll now, and you guys can fill out this poll, and while you're filling it out, I'm going to open it up for questions. So everyone can put their question in our chat box and we can get to them. So feel free if you have any questions, whether it's about a specific tool or even just robotic process automation in general. If you have any questions on that, feel free to ask it. We also, like I said, we have this coffee break webinar once a month. We've done a bunch of different topics from, the best ways to go across collection emails, how to write your collection emails. We've done things like that. So a lot of great topics. So feel free to sign up for all of our coffee break webinars. We do have a question. What do you offer for stuffing envelopes and postage? I'm trying to find a way to keep my collectors on the phones more. So we have a couple customers now that are outsourcing the envelope stuffing and postage. So what they do is they outsource that to a third party, and then the third party still has access and is integrated into the RPA so that they're getting those invoices automatically sent to them that need to be stuffed and posted. And then as soon as they're done, that information gets sent back into the AnyTimeCollect system. If you want more information on how this can be done, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to go to the next slide. And I have my email address and my phone number out there. And I can even send you an email, but we do have options that our customers are currently using for this. Do we have any other questions? We have one question. What systems do you integrate with? So we did mention ERPs a couple times. We currently integrate with a bunch of different softwares. We have Sage, Epicor, Sage Intacct, QuickBooks, um, NetSuite. Um, we have a list of all of these on our webpage if you go to anytimecollect.com, that you can find that. I can also send that information to you. But feel free to check those out. And even if I didn't list it, I'm sure that we already have an integration to it over the last decade that we've been in business. All right, those are all the questions that we have for today. I'll let you guys go. Have a happy holiday. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions that you hadn't thought of. Thanks everybody for joining. I hope you learned something today.